more. Guru's Pizza 786 has 50 plus Indian and Italian pizza varieties. They're open Monday through Thursday until midnight, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until 3 a.m. Takeout and delivery are available. Guru's Pizza 786, 7806 Front Beach Road. Call 5. Better quality and better taste.
Mid-South Lumber, where they treat you like family. Locally owned and serving the residents of Bay County for over 45 years. Visit their feed store at the Youngstown location for all of your livestock feed, plumbing, electrical, lawn, and garden needs. They also carry local Chautauqua wines, baby chicks, and a full line of poultry supplies to get your chicks started off right. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces. Just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana, WVLQ Port St. Joe.
You gotta fight! ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Welcome to the house. It's time for the Afternoon Underdogs.
It's happening. Wow.
It's on right now. Opinionated and unfiltered. The hot takes, the rants, and the sports talk you crave.
Give it to me.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome to the Doghouse. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. It's ESPN Northwest Florida, and we are the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes. Shortly, we'll have Tyler Bishop and Max DeLayden in the house with me as well. We had the NBA Finals last night. Tough ending for Miami, and it could end for Miami totally tonight in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. If we could put it in program on the board, that would be great. Thank you so much there. We got Boss Man back there taking care of us today. Hopefully everyone's having a fantastic afternoon today. Again, you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, and you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. Don't forget that we've got 3 phenomenal local shows right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. You don't even have to touch the dial all day long. Start kicking it off weekdays with the Coach James Hale Show from 7 to 9 a.m. Then Ryan Mulvey, Jay Henley take over the Inside Drive from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on your weekdays, and we wrap your afternoons up right here, the Afternoon Underdogs from 4 to 6. Today we're going from 4 until 5:40, where we're going to get you out to the first pitch of the Braves. I'll be talking a little bit more about those Atlanta Bravos and the woes that they went through last night. It was a tough game to watch. I was actually outside flipping burgers. I'm like, okay, it's 5-1. Or 5-2 actually in the 9th inning. I'll go out here and put these burgers on. Everything should be good. So go out there. You know, the grill's already heated up. Put the burgers on the grill. I walk back in and I'm like, oh no, what in the world is going on? Raciel Iglesias, you know, it's kind of been a little up and down for him. When he first got back this year, he was lights out, and then a couple of bumps along the road. And I guess he didn't struggle as much. He wasn't issuing walks, so that's the plus sign there. But he was getting hit, and Spencer Torkelson just did a heck of a job. He did his job, but he did a heck of a job for the Detroit Tigers. And your Atlanta Braves right now just not having great success with the American League teams. I know we just looked back a couple of weeks and we had the Oakland Athletics, which we have a little tidbit of information on the Oakland A's, but not a great series, dropping 2 to the Oakland A's, and now starting the series off on the wrong foot with a loss to the Detroit Tigers in extras last night, 6-5. And the Braves really needed to pick that game up last night because Charlie Morton's kind of been struggling, especially when you look at the win-loss department, which isn't the biggest deal in all of sports, but it was something that you would really like as the Atlanta Braves. I'm sure in the clubhouse, I'm sure the pitching staff would have loved to see Charlie Morton come away with that win after, one of his best starts. But we'll get more into the Atlanta Braves today at 4:40. ESPN Northwest Florida presents the Blast at Bay Point. You and a guest could win a round of 18 at the legendary Bay Point Golf Club, the Nicholas Course, right here in beautiful Panama City Beach. And this starts Monday, June 26th. So we're about 13 days away. You just got to listen weekdays at 8:40, 12:40, and 5:40 to play high-low. When you hear the cue to call, be caller number 10 at 850-215-6290, and caller number 10's automatically, just for being caller number 10, you win a large bucket of balls at the driving range. And if you guess the correct number, which is going to be a lot of fun to play, you and a guest are going to win a round of 18 holes at Bay Point. That is going to be some great stuff. Maybe you could take me as your guest along with you because I absolutely enjoy playing down there at Bay Point. The more you listen, the better your chance of guessing the right number and high-low. We're also going to have a new number to guess every single Monday. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also give us a call at 850-215-6290. That is the number that you can call or text. If you text, I will read those off over the air and try to do my best with keeping up with Facebook, but we get a lot of Facebook comments sometimes, so it's hard to keep up with all of them. But right now we've got Chef Ross, AG, everyone out there, Caveman Rick as well. We really do appreciate all you listening. Thank you guys so much. AG says, welcome to the best radio show on the Panhandle, brought to you by the preeminent and prodigious prophet of the radio gods, David Hayes. Kind words there from AG. Can't wait to have those guys in the building with me on Friday. So last night, the Nuggets win first championship in franchise history. They've been a franchise now for 47 years. The Colorado Avalanche last night get it done in the world of the NHL. I believe that definitely was not their first Stanley Cup title, but first in a long time. And then the Nuggets, so in a calendar year, the city of Denver has been in great hands. Jokic was named the MVP. That's not going to be a surprise to anyone, but I've got a list of numbers here that we're going to go through, and some of these numbers, just even if you watched every single second of the series, are mind-boggling. First off, Jokic is the lowest drafted player. He was drafted 41st overall in the second round in 2014, and he won the MVP as the finals MVP as the lowest drafted player, passing Dennis Johnson, who was drafted 29th overall back in 1979. He also becomes only the third second-round pick to win the finals MVP. He joins Willis Reed and Dennis Johnson. Moses Malone won the 1983 Finals MVP with the 76ers, but he was not drafted by an NBA team because he started in the ABA with the Utah Stars. Jokic joins Giannis Antetokounmpo, Dirk Nowitzki, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Hakeem Olajuwon as the only players overseas to take home the Finals award. I always forget about Tim Duncan not actually being from here in America. And then after, how we always give, a little grief to Philly and some of these other bigger sports worlds, sports areas, sports cities, with after they win the championship, things kind of going awry. Well, you did have 10 wounded last night in a shooting in Denver just hours after the win. So that is the bad news. Everything else great for the Denver Nuggets, who were able to come away and get that first championship in their franchise history, which was a lot of fun, man. I really did want to see, and I thought we were going to see watching the game. I thought, the Heat were at least going to push it to a game 6. I didn't have much faith after that just because of the way that Jokic has been playing. Clay and Jamal Murray as well. But Jimmy Butler had such a tough time last night. 8 points through the third quarter, got 13 in the fourth, which is, you can't blame him for that. But here's a couple of the things that stood out to me. You're getting behind. You're like behind 3 to 5 points late in the fourth. Why, or even in the fourth quarter in general, why are we throwing full court passes? I know that's cool when LeBron and D Wade do it, and it works out sometimes. And one of the greatest full court passes of all time, or not even full court, it's really from the 3-point line, one of the greatest alley-oops of all time, resurfaced not too long ago of Kobe Bryant kind of under the rim and over and just whamming that thing. But the full court passes twice last night in the waning moments of the game. The Denver Nuggets picked off passes, and you're just, okay, it happened the first time. I get it. You want the quick bucket. It makes sense. But Denver's been playing good defense all series, and to think that they're just going to pick off one, why try it again? And why is Jimmy Butler throwing that pass? And then why are we heaving up a shot? Now, I understand with 14 seconds, I get it. First off, I would have, if I'm Jimmy Butler and how he's been saying throughout this series, it's not about Jimmy Butler, it's about the Miami Heat. Then why are you shooting? Why are you shooting? And I know that you got to, get your heat check on and all of that good stuff, but my biggest question is, let's kick that ball around a little bit. Your last 2 3-point attempts were wildly off, and then you're going to take the craziest shot of the evening, essentially, when the money's on the line, and you've got 14 seconds, so I get that, right? Instead of waiting and just taking the final shot, and that is what it is, maybe you have a shot to get a rebound, all of that good stuff, but for me, it was why. I mean, you look like Duncan Robinson, what was it, in the previous game where they were out, the game was over, but he's just shooting from wherever like it's, playground basketball or something. So a very wild night last night. I've got a lot of numbers to go over here with Nikola Jokic and just how impressive it was, but give me you guys' feedback. We've got Max and Tyler in the building with us. Max Delight and Tyler Bishop. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and also everyone that's listening on Facebook today. We really appreciate all the comments. I'll try to scan through and read a couple of these off.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying about Jimmy Butler. I mean, it's tough. The Heat's magic beans wore off.
Yeah.
That's a team that really had no business being where they were, and one of the most prolific playoff runs in NBA history, no matter how you want to dice it. Having almost as many undrafted players as they did drafted players playing on the court at one time. And Nikola Jokic, I mean, wow, being the first guy in NBA postseason history to lead in points, rebounds, and assists. And it's a 7-foot guy.
Yeah.
And it's not like Giannis. I'd be like, okay, maybe that checks out. But like Jokic, it's like the slowest guy on the court.
Giannis is built like, what's his nickname? The Greek freak. Right. He's built like a freak, whereas Jokic is built like a bodybuilder who used to bodybuild.
Yeah.
And has been out for 20 years now.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Like an old lineman who just kind of lost the weight after he retired and then puts them on.
I was going to use that analogy at first, honestly. The offensive line. Yeah. But some of those shots last night, I think the prettiest thing is, that little kind of turnaround step back, fadeaway type deal. But honestly, if he has the ball in his hands above his shoulders, it doesn't matter if you have two teammates who have a hand on the ball. He's going to muscle that thing into the hoop, which is crazy. It's just amazing. And you brought it up. I think it was either on the Inside Drive. It might have been one of the times on this show where Jokic plays so slow, but the Denver Nuggets as kind of a whole, though, play pretty fast.
Yeah, they do.
And it's wild.
It's kind of like when you were in middle school or high school and you had that one guy who was the glue guy, or you're running a zone and you have the guy at the top of the free throw line, and then guys are just cutting and moving, and that's what Jamal Murray does with him. I know there's tons of videos of people imitating it, which is pretty funny because Jamal just cuts, and he does a lot of what Steph Curry does, but he's obviously stronger at the rack and a little more explosive sometimes towards the hoop. But credit to Malone too. What a good job coaching that team, and credit to the front office for keeping Jamal Murray after he tore his ACL. I know there was a video of him that surfaced of him thanking Stan Kroenke. Stan Kroenke doesn't deserve any of that. That guy's one of the worst owners in sports. He doesn't deserve any championships, even though he's gotten 3 in the past 3 years.
Yeah, man. Karma works out in very mysterious ways.
Yeah, it'll get him at some point. That guy is, thankfully, Arsenal choked because I think he's an Arsenal owner as well.
Oh, is he?
I believe so.
I'm glad that you brought that up, though, because that brings another question up or not even a question, more or less a topic for your Mortgage Minute with Max that we'll have here in the next segment. But Man City with the treble. And I want you to kind of break down again, because I know what it means, and not right now, but in the next segment, I do want to kind of a refresher on what the treble exactly is. Again, 850-215-6290 is the number to call or text. We're going to have Chandler Permenser today on with us at the top of hour number 2, kind of breaking down the College World Series, who he thinks is going to be in the final, who's going to win it all. How about that game last night with Stanford and Texas?
Can you imagine, like, you play your whole life playing baseball and you've been like living up for that moment? Like, you can't blame the guy.
No, you can't blame the guy.
But like, you would have to hold a lot in, like, of how many emotions you have coming out.
Especially if you're the pitcher.
Of the pitcher, and if you're a senior, if you're a guy who's like grinded out all those years, and your baseball career ends on that.
It's just so wild. We didn't talk about it a lot on the inside.
Did everyone lose
today,
it, or just the guy fielding it?
Like, it looked like it looked like the shortstop kind of had a bead on it, but it was too deep for him, so he just kind of gave up a little bit, and then your left fielder and your center fielder kind of converging, and maybe miscommunication, which you know how it is when you're in the outfield,
especially
guys,
at
right?
that time.
I played the little soundbite of Donald Trump saying, "Turn off the lights."
Turn off the lights.
But it was just it was wild seeing that, and you're just like, man, like you said, you feel bad initially for all of the Texas players, and I can't.
But
also
Texas.
You bring there is that, but you bring up the seniors and everything. But I'm just thinking of the pitcher, and it's like, because you know how it is. Anyone makes an error, and you're the pitcher, and you're like pissed. You bite your tongue, but like deep down, you're like, come on, bro.
Like, look at the
we're in practice. Yeah, exactly.
You pull the bill over your head a little.
Yeah, we're in practice all the time. I see you making those with ease, and then here we are, in this moment, and the pitcher can't hold on to that because he's got to throw the next pitch and keep his mind in the game. But after that,
there's been a lot of lackluster baseball like that lately too. Like between that, the Braves ending yesterday, not to rub salt. The Braves are good against every good team, and then against bad teams, they just like hang it up halfway through the game.
Which I hate that. It's the same thing that you see in college football teams, or in college football, right, where teams can match up. But seriously, well, there is still a slight tinge of that, right? Because who did they struggle with last year? And it's not. It's the problem of it's playing to the competition type deal. You know what I mean? And for those guys, especially when you're Georgia, you're coming off of the national championship, and you still have like the nucleus kind of there. So it's easy for those guys. Like, even though Kirby Smart doesn't want them to, it's easy for them to coast, as you said, like, and just be like, okay. And then what's even worse about it, I mean this in a completely positive way, is that they know they can turn it on in the fourth quarter, and they're that much better. You did not see that again though from Georgia, right? Like, you saw it from those two teams, from Missouri and Kent State. And then for the rest of the world, or for the rest of the year, it was like you can make arguments or whatever you want to, but no game was really close outside of Ohio State. So
they killed Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah. Hey, I mean,
that's the one time I think in my life I've ever been like, man, I kind of feel for Ohio State.
I still did not. I
when their kicker missed, I thought about their kickers, Shobo, and I was like, what a tool, man. Nice kick, dude. But as far as that goes, though, that was pretty bummed for them because they were already without JSN. But, I mean, everyone's with injuries. Everyone's just not as deep as Georgia.
I'm still a little, I don't want to say, I'm not perturbed at all or whatever JSN can do. And when we say JSN, we're talking about Jackson Smith and Jigbo, the wide receiver, who has now been drafted to the Seattle Seahawks. Right. But my thing is I know you were injured and battling that throughout the year, but I really, Jameson Williams was like, you know what I mean? Like, you've had some of these players who have been injured and they come back for that big game.
He didn't get really medically cleared though. The doctors told him not to go.
No, 100%. Like, that's why I said I'm not perturbed, but I would like to be a fly on the wall in that patient room or wherever where the doctor's talking to him, and it's like, is the doctor saying do not play, or is it, you kind of have this choice, and then you've got the NFL draft that's not too far away. You're not going to get paid any extra money for winning any more games at the collegiate level, but you're going to get paid a lot at the professional level.
Well, I can't blame him, right? He's going to make millions of dollars in his future, so like him playing this game for free, like we're talking about, it's hard to blame him, right?
You're right.
But it makes you appreciate when guys fight to come back more. Like George Pickens last year.
Absolutely.
Like, he tore his ACL in spring camp. He came back. He played, maybe 30 snaps between the SEC title game, the national championship, and the semifinal. But the guy fought to come back because he wanted to be with his team. He loves the game of football, loved his team. Right. So when somebody does something like that, it just makes you appreciate it more.
It does.
Like I said, I'm not saying I wouldn't have done the same if I'm just Jason.
Right. To be in those shoes.
To see other guys do it, it's like, that's so much. That's what college football is about.
And like, for me, it was like a good hometown reference, since I haven't had as many successful teams as you two guys. For the Cubs, the World Series run, Schwarber tore his ACL second game of the season, comes back for the World Series, and like a guy with his build probably should not have been back for the World Series, and he probably risked a lot on the line for his career and getting paid ultimately, because he was still on a rookie deal and everything, and ended up hitting like .391 in the World Series. And those are the stories like the Kirk Gibson with the hamstring type things, where like, come on, sports are awesome.
Sports really are awesome, and there's no doubt about that. That we, as especially the American crowd that's watching these stories play out in front of us, and then when you have a guy who's injured, the flu game. And we don't even know if it's cocktail flu or if it was an actual flu. Like, you know what I mean?
Doesn't matter.
But at the end of the day, like, he's dealing with ailments, and so we put this, spin on it that just and I love that about it. I love that about sports. You're so right.
But yeah, the thing too with the baseball play, going back to that with the Braves, like, we need to get a show on ESPN of you and I, like, replacing like Jay Williams or Max Kellerman or something, auditing baseball.
I don't want to wake up that early.
Yeah, fair. But I don't want to hear Jay Williams either. And we get on.
Why is it? Just keep going with your point.
We get on. Well, when he's like critiquing all these things, I'm like, dude, you crashed a motorcycle after your first year, and like your career is over, and you're like, oh, the Heat didn't try at the end. Like, you didn't even try to make it like a career in the NBA.
Whoa!
But like that, and then like with the Braves error yesterday, and then, as you know, as a baseball player, when you have guys in like runners in scoring position, and you're, say, the third baseman, you should be hugging the line because there's no doubles. Yohan doesn't do that the other day. Boom, game over. I was like, man, I would be so ticked. How are you a pro baseball player and you don't know how to do that?
Or Austin Riley, who's essentially handed the Braves 2 losses this year on his third base play, which, he is not the Atlanta Braves third baseman based off of his defense, right? There's only one position on that field where the guy is there, like for the Atlanta Braves, where he is there primarily on his defense, and that's Orlando Arcia. Because if they didn't care about defense at all, then you'd see Grissom would still be going. They try to get Braden Shoemaker, who I believe Shoemaker is more of a defensive prowess guy.
Yeah, and Michael Harris kind of got a little bit of a nod too for that.
Michael Harris as well, but he did show flashes of his bat, and his some of his numbers really do align with what was going on last year. So and you're starting to see him snap out of that, which is really good. And we're going to get into your Mortgage Minute with Max here in the very next segment. It's time for us to take a break, pay some bills. You are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The tradition continues.
That ball is going to be out of here.
The Atlanta Braves play here.
Bombs away.
The Atlanta Braves are back and making a statement.
Head first slide, 2 RBI triple.
Listen to Atlanta Braves baseball in a rich audio experience live on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Here comes the thunder.
Sponsored by Best Way Portable Buildings, Dave and Buster's, PCB Hobby, and Gulf Coast Aquarium.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. A likelihood of thunderstorms and some sun the remainder of the day with a wind at 14 miles per hour out of the southwest and 84. Tonight, look for a chance of thunderstorms and some clouds with a temperature near 79. Tomorrow, a high around 84 and partly cloudy in the morning, followed by likely thunderstorms. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
I have some great gift ideas for you here at Tracy's Fine Jewelry inside Coin and Bullion Reserves. We have a large selection of 14-karat charms starting at just $19.95. Engrave a personal message and add a special coin for your dad's birth year on a money clip or keychain. And a beautiful designer Bulova watch is a perfect gift that will be treasured forever. Always a perfect gift for any occasion. From Tracy's Fine Jewelry inside Coin and Bullion Reserves, where our reputation shines as brightly as our diamonds.
Are you thinking of doing a fundraiser? Well, Krispy Kreme Donuts next to HCA Hospital, 23rd Street, Panama City, and on the Ross Clark Circle in Dothan says, let's raise some dough. Earn up to 50% profit with a Krispy Kreme fundraiser in-shop or online. So let's raise some dough. At Krispy Kreme Donuts next to HCA Hospital, 23rd Street, Panama City, and on the Ross Clark Circle in Dothan.
From the pros to the future pros, we're your home team station for home team sports. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back as the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. Don't forget about your Atlanta Braves. The first pitch tonight, 5:40. They are on the road against the Tigers. That series will finish up tomorrow afternoon, but we won't have the game on the air because of the inside drive. But we are your home for the Atlanta Braves in Northwest Florida. The Atlanta Braves are sponsored locally by Bill Bird Kia, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Mid-South Lumber, Stormore Portable Buildings, and Brock Pest Control. All right, so this is your Mortgage Minute with Max. We're definitely going to have to dive into Messi, but just over the weekend, Man City wins the treble. Explain to me what the treble is and how big is this for Man City?
Yeah, and Messi actually turned down a move to Man City a little bit ago, or a while back, I guess. He kind of didn't want to have the Kevin Durant trajectory behind him. But yeah, the Man City treble, winning their domestic league, which is the English Premier League, winning the FA Cup, which is the leagues 1 through 3 in England competing, or 1 through 4 actually in England competing for the ultimate goal, which is kind of cool because some of the lower teams sometimes might knock out a Premier League team who is like what we were saying, if they're sleeping on a big team, like not scouting them out. So it's a big accomplishment too because all the EPL teams are in it too. So it's like a little knockout tournament with all the EPL teams and then win the Champions League, which is the best of the best from all the leagues in Europe. Which is so cool to see for them.
Who did they beat in the final?
They beat Inter Milan.
Inter Milan.
Yeah,
okay, that's an Italian team.
It is.
Serie A.
Serie A.
See, I've learned so much from Max through the years.
There we go. You make me proud.
There you go, man.
But yeah, that's the first team to do it in England since Man United back in 1999. So
wait, really? So this was a big time feat, like something
big time. Yeah.
So this doesn't happen often at all. So who was the last team to win a treble overall? Triple.
I don't want to discredit it, but the last one was Bayern, where it's a little easier because the Bundesliga only has 1 or 2 competitive.
That's German,
teams.
Tyler.
Yeah, Bayern Munich.
I'm passing on your knowledge.
Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga in Germany. They've got like Dortmund, 1 or 2 other teams that are okay, and then they have the same thing where they play.
Well, so why doesn't is it because their league is a little bit easier than the others?
And their version of the FA Cup, like the German teams aren't as good.
Oh yeah, because they don't have 3 like legit leagues. They don't even have 5 legit teams in their main league.
Exactly.
It'd be like the MLS if
a lot of English championship teams could take it to some of the German teams, which is the English championship's the second best league in England. The EPL. So it's a pretty tough accomplishment. Doing that in Spain or England is like extremely impressive. Italy too.
So France and Germany don't really have the same kind of premier leagues.
Yeah, like a lot of like fans, especially like the British fans, love to chirp other leagues, even though La Liga is probably the best league when it comes down to it, just because having the Barcelona's, Real Madrid, Atletico, they've really had like the cream of the crop, Messi and Ronaldo forever.
See, I play my FIFA every now and
again. And they like call the German and Italian leagues, or French leagues, they kind of call them like the farmers leagues. I think you just get a farmer and put him on a roster.
Oh, I love that, man. That's good stuff. Before we move on to Messi, again, this is your Mortgage Minute with Max Delighten here. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. We're the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Last week, you weren't here with us because you were playing hook. You know, you were actually up there in Detroit area, close to Detroit, Canada, Michigan, doing some work, and you got the opportunity to go out there to Comerica. Tell us a little bit about how the park was and your adventures.
Yeah, honestly, Detroit exceeded my expectations. The past 10 years, it's been built up a lot. Only place in America you can look south and see Canada.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
that is wild because like the key of that, right, is looking south and you see Canada. Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Max would hate it there. I mean, not Max. Miles would hate it there.
Yeah. Yes, he would. But yeah, Comerica is a really cool park. You're able to buy tickets pretty close to the field that are pretty cheap. And there was a lot more Canadian fans at the stadium than I would have expected. Like,
do they rock Blue Jays stuff or?
No, mostly Tigers fans, just because they're close enough there. But yeah, the proximity, I guess. Like how there's like some Cardinals fans in central southern Illinois.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool to see. It was funny to hear a lot of the chirping too, because the Canadian accent is always just hilarious. Like like Corbin Carroll, he's got like the long hair. Some guy kept saying he looked like Twilight and calling him a bum.
They were playing the Diamondbacks when you were there?
They were. First place
Was that
Diamondbacks.
when Corbin Carroll? Yeah, I know, right? Is that the one where he hit the triple that should have been a double, kind of like Ellie Cruz?
No, that was the day before.
I think, it was the day before.
Yeah, I missed that.
That was a good series, though. Tigers,
The Diamondbacks are pretty fun. I mean, they're legit. So it's a pretty fun team. And we were lucky enough that our tickets were like right behind the dugout. So we had some commentary with some of the players, which is pretty funny.
That's cool. Who
told Merrill Kelly to get the sigh.
There
Said,
you
thanks,
go.
man.
Say anything to Spencer Torkelson?
I just told him to hit a torque bomb, which he didn't. He did last night.
Yeah,
though.
he did. Yeah, that's great. That's what I'm saying. You fed him inspiration for him to take down the Atlanta Braves.
And it's funny because like Javi, snapping yesterday. I don't know if you saw the video of that, where there was a play at short that he bobbled, and it should have been a double play, but he tossed it to third and got the out at third.
What inning was this in? All right, I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I'm going to go with 6th or 7th, maybe.
All right.
And he was booed loud when I was at the game, and it's pretty cool because Miguel Cabrera, everyone knows he's a legend.
Yeah.
Marlins and Tigers. He got like standing nose, which is awesome. He hit 2 doubles. He was 2 of the Tigers' 4 hits, 5 hits
like
on the
58
day.
58 now.
Man, he was about to pass out every time he got to second base. But he's so funny because he's like talking to everyone. Like, when he got stranded with the bases loaded on the on-deck circle, he was like yelling at some of the other Venezuelan guys he knows on the Diamondbacks, like Gabriel Moreno. But they get so hyped for Miggy, and they give because their thing is like the Gracias Miggy season.
Yeah.
So like they update his achievements every time he gets a hit and stuff, and it's pretty neat.
That is cool, and that's a good. I mean,
because he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly, and it's cool that you got to go see him kind of in his swan song season or whatever. Because I don't want to say regret but I am kind of mad at myself because Tom Brady retired and then reneged on that retirement, if you will. And I told myself, like, look, more than likely this is going to be the last time Tom Brady's this close to you, and you or even playing football in general. So you need to go down there and
I wish I had
check
seen
the
him
game
play
out.
too.
And now I'm mad, a little bit. That
You gotta see Messi play though.
Yeah. So let's dive straight into that now. Messi signing with Inter Miami with the MLS, which was huge because it was reported like 2 days before, even when people were already saying it's a done deal, and it wasn't an officially done deal, that he could have went over there to the Saudi League. My first question is, why do you think he chose the MLS over the Saudi League? Because there's no way that the money is comparable outside of them maybe getting a percentage of the team there.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's someone who's not as money oriented as like a Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not a bias thing. That's just like a known
just
thing.
That.
So he was getting offered $1 billion for 3 years to play in Saudi Arabia,
and some like oil refinery stuff too, right?
Oh yeah, there were other additions to it, and so everyone thought he was going to go back to Barcelona, including myself. I was wrong on that. I thought he would, but he didn't. Barcelona's been in a tight financial situation. They almost went bankrupt like 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
No fault to him, but this is actually a true thing, and people will be like, oh yeah, so a millionaire helping out a millionaire, but he didn't go to Barca because they were going to have to terminate a ton of players' contracts and move a ton of players out.
So you're not even going to go there and win. You're just going to make money, essentially.
Yeah, well, they probably would have still won La Liga with him there because he's still so good. Like, the craziest thing about him joining the MLS is he's instantly the best player by a substantial margin.
Yeah.
It's like if you put like Acuna in... It's like if you put Acuna in low A baseball.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be fair.
Or really even triple A baseball at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But that's how big of like the gap is.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So then Saudi Arabia comes back, offers him $1.3 billion for 3 years.
$1.3 billion,
and so,
dude.
He turned it down. He signed with Inter Miami and was like starting to do the paperwork, not fully bound yet. And they offered him one last time $1.6 billion for 3 years. And he said no. And his reasons, I mean, especially as Americans will probably agree, he doesn't want his kids to go to school there or live in that area. And like, can you blame him?
Does he have a daughter?
No, he has 2 or 3 sons.
Okay. I was going to say, like,
pay for your family to live elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like $1.6 billion. I mean,
oh yeah, but he's already a billionaire and like,
what's he, 35?
Yes, 34, 35.
35. So, I mean, he's not, you know,
his kids are all like 6 through like 10. And so, but the thing is, for this deal, there's probably more than they report because he's getting $150 million over the deal or whatever. And he gets some of the revenue share from the MLS moving to Apple TV. But the big question is, how profitable is that really, and how much is he really going to get? Because I really want the MLS to be good as our domestic league, but it's not. The product's not there yet.
Do you think there was a push by the MLS, even though there was no way that they were going to be equaling up to the same amount of money from the PIF? Because let's be honest, that's what it boils down to, right? The same thing that we're talking about here with soccer is the same thing in golf, is the same thing in soccer. They've got Premier League teams as well. That's why I'm saying, like, there's so many lines that are intersected here that this whole PGA Live thing is going to be very interesting, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Do you think that the MLS wanted to get Messi in to kind of, because all right, so the
effect on
he said he didn't
crazy.
want to be in the spotlight. He wanted to be out of the spotlight, right? And then Caveman Rick says this is a great take here. He's going to be the biggest event in every town, every city he goes to. So
which he knows. But he knows he's the best by like a lot. Yeah. It's something where it's like, unless he gets injured, he can't fail.
Yeah.
Like, he's that much better than these people.
Would this be comparable to Aaron Rodgers joining like the XFL? Essentially,
even lower than that, like
even bigger gap.
So if Aaron Rodgers went to like D2 college football,
maybe like high school,
like high school
that
football,
big like it's seriously that big of a gap.
It is a big deal.
It's like the talent gap because he still has a couple good years in him that. I was shocked, and most soccer people are. I know, like, a lot of Americans like, the MLS has come back, which that'd be awesome if the MLS comes up and rises from this and more people follow
one play. I mean, it's not like this is the first time that they've brought superstars from overseas. But it could be more of a domino effect
because Messi has that pull.
But did Beckham have that kind of pull whenever he came over?
He is a big, like, worldwide star for what he is, but in the soccer world, like,
Leo is like Michael Jordan too.
Yes.
Michael Jordan is like LeBron and MJ, Leo and Ronaldo.
Yeah, but like Leo is like the Michael Phelps. Like he's like the indisputable GOAT. Yeah. And they went from, in the first 24 hours of him signing, he went from Inter Miami went from 1 million to 5 million followers on Instagram. And it's just that effect. Yeah. All the ticket prices went from like $40 to $450 to go see him play in any of the cities, which is funny because he, at the earliest, he's not going to be playing until like July 21st. So all these people are buying tickets to see the worst team in the MLS roll out all these bums.
That's good marketing there by Inter Miami.
And the biggest winner, too, is David Beckham because he had to pay, like, I want to say $25 million to kind of preserve this Inter Miami team and have a right. And that's a lot of the reason why he came to the MLS was so he would have that right to buy an expansion team when the time came, which he obviously has the money. Him and his wife, everyone knows.
Yeah.
But now they're worth so much more. I'm pretty sure they're worth like almost $1 billion with Messi. I mean, it's incredible.
That is insane.
And their merchandise is going to fly off the shelves. Like, I'll try and go see Messi play again for sure.
I mean, like, you can go right up there to Atlanta. You can go right down there to Orlando. You know what I mean? There's two opportunities just to go see one of the greatest to ever do it. And I mean, could you imagine? For me, that would be my first professional soccer game.
That's cool.
You know, and if I were to go to a game where Messi's playing, it's like, wow, that is absolutely insane. Caveman wants to know, do you think that Messi coming to the MLS is bigger than Pele going to the New York Cosmos? That's one of those ones. It's a hard question. I liken that to like trying to find something to compare this PGA Live Tour to, like, because you got the ABA and the NBA, but I wasn't around for that. I didn't understand you know what I'm saying? There's a difference about learning the facts and understanding the emotions of what's going on.
That's a really good question because as far as like the highest talent that's come here, he's obviously far and away the highest talent, but he still has enough in the tank. Like we just saw him be the best player in the World Cup at his age.
First player to score in every round of the World Cup?
Yeah, and with the team, like he really carried them on his shoulders. Like Argentina's not the same without Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
They've had their history with Maradona, but they're not.
So, and he's not playing in the 2026 World Cup, which I don't blame him for. I know that Argentina would love to see him.
Wear off, I think, by then.
Well, not just that, though, but my thing is what's the ultimate goal as a competitor, especially when you're talking about an event that happens every 4 years, right off into the sunset?
It's like getting a gold medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Even...
I would say because, like, with the Olympics, I don't know, you work
but it's not even individualistic for, like, I mean...
Yeah.
So it's really tough. I mean...
It really is because you got to have a good goalkeeper. Yeah. Your coach has got to be in great position.
Like, why risk going back and getting bounced early? Like, I'm going out on top.
And this is good too, where he's not going to get as like worn down because they play way less games in the U.S. versus where he would.
And so I guess my biggest thing is like with the MLS is like, I think that this makes the World Cup for Americans, not for the rest of the world, but even that much more special, just because Messi is going to generate. I would feel safe to say that Messi's presence in the MLS generates 250,000 or more new soccer fans over I would say a year. So 1 million fans over the course of the next 4 years until we get to 2026.
I'll tune into some MLS games too because I want to see him just toying with people. But I don't think it's outlandish to say that there is a chance that the MLS surpasses the NHL at some point if they get, if that's a big if. That he keeps bringing people now that Messi's here, because one, this really makes guys who sold out to go into Saudi Arabia look bad. And it's not comparable to like a Live PGA thing because it's it's very individualistic. It's him. Right. Benzema's going over there now. But Benzema's actually Muslim, so that makes sense. Whereas Ronaldo really kind of sold out because no team wanted him or said he was going to play. So he's probably the biggest loser in this situation, because if he wanted to keep like the image, he could have been the one in Miami, because that was what everyone thought he was going to end up doing. Yeah. And it's good for Messi because he doesn't know English, and Miami's one of the few areas he doesn't have to learn English.
That is actually a really good point, but also at that same time, he can explode as a image in the sporting world, because he will, at the same time, he's in a comfortable place where he can continue to use his native language in Spanish, but he's also going to be able to learn English a little bit along the way, and so that's going to make his marketability skyrocket.
Yeah, which I don't know how much he wants to be like that.
Well, he's coming to America, so that's pretty much,
Yeah, that's true. But that's still I guess, downgrade from being in Barcelona and Paris just because of the popularity of the sport, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I know what you're saying. He's totally expanding his market to a whole other group of people who can hopefully witness how good he really is.
I think it's going to be great, man. As a non-avid soccer fan, I think that this is huge. I don't think that it takes anyone to know anything about soccer to know that this is huge. Yeah. But some of the effects that we could see from it, it is going to be lifelong. Yeah, or maybe not lifelong, league-long for the MLS.
And there's guys you'd recognize from FIFA now, like Jordi Alba's looking to join Inter Miami now. Mm-hmm. And we've seen a lot of guys come on their last legs, like Bastian Schweinsteiger when he joined the Fire and stuff like that, which is cool. And he's still immediately one of the best players. Wayne Rooney, who was awesome. He had some pretty sweet goals for DC United. But
Thierry Henry, Kaká, Ibrahimovic. Kyle Alberton says all of those players are better than that came are better than Beckham. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
So that's kind of my issue
for when they came. Yeah,
I think that it's great for this point in time. I think it's great for the league in general. I just don't know if it really takes the MLS. You know what I mean? This model has been used before.
What if players see him?
But what are our best players doing? What are the U.S. men's national team?
Going the other way.
Exactly. So that will continue to happen because they know that this is a league of facade, a league of, to grow you up, but also the best soccer players are going to know the best soccer's in the EPL or La Liga or wherever.
Yeah, and those guys like Pulisic, Tim Weah, Gio Reyna, they all tell you their biggest soccer development was when they were 13 to 17, 18, and that was because of where they were in Europe playing with people who are the best of the best. It's like if you tried, which is what makes someone like Jokic so impressive, because Europe, it's good. I'm not trying to discredit that league at all, but you're playing way better and way more competitive basketball over here.
That's why I don't really believe in Victor Wembanyama. I'm just saying, and even more so now, I saw this other video the other day where a dude smaller than me was posting them up, and I'm like, that's it. The hype is over. We had Steve Alexander, Doc A, on the show with the Inside Drive today,
I saw that.
And I was just sitting there shaking my head when he's talking about when I didn't want to respond because they were kind of getting close to the end of that segment there. And I love all the hype that he's generating, but I cannot wait till after G League and we get into the preseason and the regular season, and that guy is getting posted up like a spaghetti noodle. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Quick timeout. We're going to come right back with traffic jam and trivia.
ESPN Northwest Florida is on location at Dave & Buster's. The Afternoon Underdogs are broadcasting live at Dave & Buster's Pier Park with half-price cocktails, half-price games, free Dave & Buster's game cards, and choice swag from ESPN Northwest Florida. Join David, Kyle, Amanda, Drew, and a cast of sports fanatics every Wednesday from 4 to 6 with fun and prizes at Dave & Buster's Pier Park with ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. A likelihood of thunderstorms and some sun the remainder of the day with a wind at 14 miles per hour out of the southwest and 84. Tonight, look for a chance of thunderstorms and some clouds with a temperature near 79. Tomorrow, a high around 84 and partly cloudy in the morning, followed by likely thunderstorms. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
The road is yours this summer in a new Kia from Bill Bird Kia. Stop by and check out the Bill Bird Kia SUV family that is built for all-in adventures and endless possibilities. Whether you're traveling on the highways or off-road, you'll do it with grace and grit. Now offering 3.25% APR up to 48 months on the purchase of a new 2023 Kia Sorento. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort and safety and technology. Bill Bird Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us today at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. We'll treat you like family and give you the peace of mind that you can trust.
Offer from Kia Finance for the purchase of a new 2023 Kia Sorento with $22.22 per month per $1,000 finance at 48 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 7/5/23.
In your face.
Questionable calls all over the NFL this year.
On the field.
Quantify, to put a value on momentum, you can't do that.
And in your radio.
Hashtag NFL rigged.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
And you're back. It's the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. We're on 104.3 in Panama City, 101.9, the Forgotten Coast, Port St. Joe. And again, don't forget about the Atlanta Braves taking on the Tigers. Spencer Strider on the bump for your Bravos tonight, tonight at 5:40. First pitch will commence, and we'll get you right there at first pitch. Hopefully we don't have any weather in the area tonight. Traffic jamming trivia. The question today, Marcus Semion's 25-game hitting streak was the longest in Major League Baseball this season. Who had the longest hitting streak of all last year? 850-215-6290. Marcus Semion's 25-game hitting streak, which ended just under a week ago, is the longest in baseball this season. Who had the longest hitting streak last year? 850-215-6290. We're going to be giving you $25 to the break room, a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock, and we've also got some Dave & Buster swag to give away. Speaking of the break room, that's who brings you the Braves update. Today's special is meatloaf. Wednesday's special is chicken pot pie. Thursday's special is hamburger steak. And this Friday, it's not going to be air-fried chicken. It's going to be chicken quesadilla with chips and salsa. Chef Ross reported that to me earlier this afternoon. So chicken quesadilla with some chips and salsa for Friday. All of these specials are just $12. You get your drink and your sides with those as well, all day long, or at least until supplies run out. Go check out the break room. It's in the old Vic Sports Bar location, or as some of you may remember it as the Purple Turtle. Give us a call, win yourself $25 to go check out the break room at 850-215-6290 and play a little trivia with us. I'll read the question off when you guys call. The Braves update again brought to you by the break room. Last night losing to the Tigers 6-5 in the 10th. It was 5-2 in the 9th. And Rossier Iglesias just had a bumpy 9th inning. Spencer Torkelson getting it done with the homer in the 9th and then singling in the 10th to drive in the winning run for the Detroit Tigers. Now, you did have an issue last night. I believe it was in the top of the 10th inning. Sam Hilliard runs for Sean Murphy, who was on second base. I believe Rosario he ended up getting to third base, on a fielder's choice, and then makes a play at the plate, or there's a play at the plate on a sac fly. He gets called out. They review it, still called out. It was one of those ones, and I feel bad for the umpires in a sense here. It's one of those ones that it was kind of bang, bang, and the call on the field had to stand. And I hate it because it did seem like his little oven mitt there got under the glove, and his other hand swam around the catcher's mitt. But at the end of the day, you got to live with the call, and that's not the only. I mean, don't have a terrible ninth inning, and it doesn't even get to the 10th. Let's get over to the phone line. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. Where are you calling from?
Hey, man, I'm actually calling out from Panama City Beach.
Awesome. We're right here in your area. Marcus Simeon's 25-game hitting streak is the longest in Major League Baseball this season. Who had the longest hitting streak last year?
I'm probably going to mess his name up, but I believe it was Trey Turner.
Yeah, Trey Turner. Yes, sir. That Google working good today, my friend. Hey, stay on the line, and you just won yourself $25 to the break room, 12-pack of Buffalo Rock, and some Dave & Buster swag. Stay on the line, and Randy's going to grab some information from you and tell you how to get over to the station so you can pick up your package. Thanks so much for calling, buddy.
All right, thank you, man.
Yeah, that is great stuff, man. Trey Turner, who is now the Philadelphia Phillies shortstop. Last year, he was with the Dodgers. Had a immaculate World Baseball Classic, probably the best World Baseball Classic out of everyone except for maybe Shohei Ohtani, which, golly, he hit 2 more big flies last night. One, I believe, in the 12th inning to give the Angels a much-needed win over the Rangers. But, yeah, Trey Turner playing with the Phillies right now. The season hasn't gone to plan, but, look, the Phillies are just 1 game under 500 right now. That, I would say they're in less trouble than the Mets because of all the injuries that the Mets are dealing with. But don't forget about your Atlanta Braves, who are leading the NL East, and they've been dealing with a plethora of injuries. And I think people just put that on the back burner, but it's like Snitker's been doing such an amazing job, in my opinion. Like the bullpen's one of the best in the league through the first 2.5 months. Snicker does a great job of platooning his players, making sure that the batting matchups between the pitcher are what's needed. So I'm really not at all. My one area of concern for the Braves, okay, injuries, but that's a concern across the league. Mine is what we talked about in the first 10, 15 minutes of the first segment in this show today, was the fact that when you get against these teams that you should beat, which every dog has its day. That's why we're the Afternoon Underdogs. But when you're playing up against that competition, I need you to win 2 or 3 every time. Oakland A's, they can get 1. That's fine. I need 2 every single time. So I need the Braves to win the next 2 games.
So has this been a trend for the Braves like before this year, or is it kind of something that's kind of come on this year? It's kind of kind of catching you off guard as a Braves fan, right?
Yeah, it is actually one of those things that is catching me off guard this year because I would say since 2019, really I want to say 2017 or 2018 is when you started to see the Braves kind of start to make that run. It's like the window just got creaked open. And how I started to see it, and I would have never guessed that we would have won the World Series, to be quite frank with you. But you started to see it with what you've seen from them a lot this year in late game heroics. Like they'd be down 9 runs in the 7th inning, but you got to make sure you watch that 8th and the 9th inning because you just don't know what'll happen. And then that trend is kind of carried on through this opening of the window, or while this window has been open. So I would like that to continue, but that is a concern. It's a double concern because not only are we struggling with teams who are well below 500, but we're struggling with the American League, and who do you have to beat? Which none of this matters when you get to the playoffs, but all of it matters until you get to the playoffs, So, I'd like to see them do a little bit better against the American League as well, because they've been the nemesis. And this is also another thing that it doesn't bother me, and I don't think it's worrisome at all, but the Braves, I believe they've played now 5 extra inning games, and that was their first loss. So that's not a concern, but it's like, of all teams to lose in extra innings, why would it have to be the Detroit Tigers, man? And the other thing, too, I mentioned when we started the show today is that Charlie Morton's he's been on the struggle bus a little bit. I mean, we're talking about a guy who I think is 38 years old. Each of the last 2 postseasons, he gets hit by a ball, like a batted ball back at him. And seriously, though, the last 2 years, I'm pretty sure. I know in 2021, the World Series year, he got hurt, I believe, in the World Series. And then in 2022, last year, I believe he took a batted ball from the Phillies. and was out for the remainder of the playoffs, which we were out after that series right there. And then the Phillies moved on to the National League Championship Series to take on the Padres. But tonight you're going to have Reese Olson going for the Detroit Tigers. He's 0-1 with an ERA of 2.70. And Braves got Spencer Strider, who's 6-2, ERA of 3.79 for the Bravos. All-Star voting is open, and that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk with Max, but he just said, you know what, I don't got any more time for you guys. You're not paying me enough. And I was like, man, so I guess we'll give him a raise next week. He's going to go from 1 penny to 2 pennies. We're going to give him 2 Abraham Lincolns.
It's because the water wasn't cold.
It's because the water wasn't cold. That's exactly right. But yeah, your all-star voting, I think phase 2 is open now, but the Braves were very well represented. Ronald Acuna Jr., Orlando Arcia might be the most, I mean, that just goes to show you Braves fans and their voting, because this is all based off the fan vote. But Orlando Arcia is leading the shortstop. He's a top vote getter for shortstop. Sean Murphy is a top vote getter for catcher. Acuna Jr. currently has received the most votes of any player. He's got 42 of 47 first place votes in MLB.com's second MVP poll of the season for this year, which obviously has, no real impact, but it just goes to show, 42 of 47 guys right now at this point, who I don't even know if they have a vote or not, but are saying he's the best guy in baseball. And it's just, there's so much talent in baseball right now. You're seeing guys like Ellie De La Cruz. If O'Neal Cruz was still healthy right now, those Pirates-Reds games would be a spectacle, because you got a 6'7" shortstop in O'Neal Cruz. You got a 6'5" shortstop in Ellie De La Cruz. Their last name ends in the same last 4 letters in Cruz. They hit moon missiles. Like, I know that's not, I don't think I've ever even said that word before, moon missile, but you have to come up with something new, because they're just that unicornish, and they're freakishly fast. The other night, Ellie De La Cruz hits a ball in between first and second base. First baseman slides over to his right to field the ball. The pitcher goes over to first base to cover the bag. Ellie De La Cruz beats the pitcher to the bag. There's not many players in Major League Baseball that can do that, and then also stand 6'5", look like they're a defensive, not a defensive back, a linebacker in the league. It's just absolutely wild what De La Cruz has brought to the table for the Atlanta Braves.
It's always fun to see those guys. Like, you just look at him, like, this guy would have been successful in almost any major league sport. He just happened to choose baseball. Yeah. It's like, man, this guy is just an athlete.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. He is, I believe he's Dominican, so, that kind of, I feel like they've got two that's their go-to to kind of get out of there, right, is baseball and soccer. Yeah. I think he was destined. I think he was destined for it. JT Realmuto last night hit for the cycle. First Phillies player to hit for the cycle since David Bell in 2004. He's just the 6th different Philly to do it since 1901. I was just a young boy back there in 1901. He's also the 17th catcher to do it all time. So big ups there, and I love it because JT Realmuto's on my fantasy baseball team, which... How do you think you would do in fantasy baseball? Do you think you would last the whole season, like keeping up with your players and everything?
So I've between fantasy baseball and fantasy basketball, I've had different people explain to me how much transactions you have to do throughout the week to try to balance out the different games and stuff like that. It's like, man, it's a lot of paying attention. Again, I don't know if it's similar to baseball. Like my buddy, he was explaining his fantasy NBA. Yeah, they only had X amount of transactions per week they could do, so you could only cut.
I'm sure each league.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's kind of a standard thing or not. I don't know if that's normal practice or not, but so I have to decide if I want to cut this or drop this guy and pick up somebody else to fill in. It's like, man, that's a lot of, but I'm sure it's cool in the sense that it just makes you watch so much more different. Like football's easy for me because I watch football anyway, but maybe getting into some fantasy would kind of help broaden that horizon a little bit.
It's tough out here being an imaginary manager, man. It absolutely is. 850-215-6290. We've already had a trivia winner, but we're definitely taking your calls or texts at 850-215-6290. Man, we'll talk about this one in 520. Adrian Amos to the Jets. That's, I know Aaron Rodgers is a huge loss, but this is one of those ones that the Packers should have done everything in their power to keep Adrian Amos as a Green Bay Packer, because he's been through it, been with him, for the last 4 years, and he's kind of the stalwart of that, of the defensive backfield for the Green Bay Packers. But the Oakland A's tonight they're going to have a reverse boycott, and they're taken to parking lots across the country in a defiant show of support for the A's, who are likely on their way out. Fans are going to be wearing shirts with "Sell" emblazoned across the front, and that is a request for the loathed owner, John Fisher, to sell the franchise. We could find out maybe as early as this week whether the A's are going to be receiving public funding for a stadium in Las Vegas, and if this is Oakland's last hurrah. Fans want to go out with one last party at the Coliseum. So that could be a lot of fun to watch tonight. You also have the NHL Stanley Cup Final tonight. This is going to be Game 5. The Vegas Golden Knights own the series right now, 3-1. Jonathan Marchessault, who used to be with the Florida Panthers, but then he was not protected in the expansion draft, right? But he also had a little time with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that was one of those players, which, we've got players all over the league that I was very fond of when they played with the Lightning, but he was one of those ones, like, even when I play NHL to this day and I start a new franchise or start a new season or whatever, and I'll go out and try to get, I always go out and get the players who used to be with the Bolts, and I won't steal from my team so that they can have a successful season in the simulated world, though. So yeah, the Oakland A's, man, got the old reverse boycott going on tonight.
Is this the first? There's rumors of this going on earlier in the season, but they didn't actually go through with it. I don't know if they actually
went through with it. Man, okay. The first game of the season, they opened up with the Angels at the house, and they had like 26,000 people there. And then for the rest of the season, it's just been it's been pretty tough for them. But it's time for us to take a quick time out. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. Coming up next is Chandler Permenter with College Baseball Central.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Dan Patrick Show.
It's fun to come to work and be excited about what we're doing.
The last time Aaron Rodgers was this motivated were those 2 years after the Packers moved up to draft Jordan Love. What followed over the following 2 years after that, Aaron had 85 touchdowns and 9 picks.
It's the Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings from 9 till 11. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. A likelihood of thunderstorms and some sun the remainder of the day with a wind at 14 miles per hour out of the southwest and 84. Tonight, look for a chance of thunderstorms and some clouds with a temperature near 79. Tomorrow, a high around 84 and partly cloudy in the morning, followed by likely thunderstorms. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana, WVLQ Port St. John.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Ben and Ted Collins, owners of Bay Guns and Gear, have been in business since 2010, offering new firearms and accessories with a huge selection available for your hunting needs and personal defense. Turn to Bay Guns and Gear. They have the weapon for you. Discount pricing. And if you can't find what you're looking for, they'll special order it for you. Bay Guns and Gear, across from Grease Pro at 3115 Highway 77. Visit their website, baygunsandgear.com.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The tradition continues.
It is a walk-off home run for Sean Murphy into the Braves bullpen.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdog.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on 104.3 right here in Panama City and 101.9 on the Forgotten Coast in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with, I almost called you Max there. Tyler
I've got a lot
Bishop.
worse things in my life.
Yeah, no doubt. Tyler Bishop, we're going to dive into some GOAT or get out of here in the next segment, but we're going to talk a little college baseball here first. But first, want to tell you guys about the Mosley High School Summer Passing Academy, which is going on tonight, June 13th. We're looking for quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. It's going to be from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Mosley practice field, looking for rising 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and it just costs $20 a session. You still have 2 more dates in June and 3 more in July. In June, it's the 20th and the 29th. So next Tuesday and the following Tuesday, you'll still have a little bit more with the Summer Passing Academy. Coach Tommy Joe Whitten, head coach of the Mosley Dolphins, will be out there. Y'all get out there and get your kids some great reps with a great coach, with a great program. Now, we've got Chandler Parmenter on with us. He is a contributor for College Baseball Central. Chandler, man, what's going on? What have you been thinking of the regionals and super regionals to this point?
Hey man, thanks for having me on, David. Look, it's been a fun last couple of weeks, and we've got a couple more weeks of really fun baseball about to come up.
Yes, sir, man. So, were there any surprises to you in the super regional round?
Well, I said it from the very beginning, but Oral Roberts was the best 4 seed in the tournament coming in. But the best 4 seed normally isn't good enough to make it to Omaha. So, Oral Roberts making it in, that's a huge deal for them. But outside of that, everything else went mostly chalk. I mean, obviously, TCU, Tennessee, slight upsets maybe, but Oral Roberts is definitely the biggest upset of the weekend.
No doubt. Is there any surprise or TCU getting to this point? How do you feel about that?
Well, TCU, they had a pretty tough draw in the regionals. I mean, going into Fayetteville and winning is always huge, especially, Arkansas this year was as good as advertised, and TCU handled business there. And then Indiana State not able to host their super regional because of the Special Olympics going on there. And Terre Haute, TCU got a little bit of an advantage there because of that. Their fans were awesome and donated some money to the cause, which you love to see. TCU they got that home field advantage. It's like they got their blood going, and then they went in there and handled business and looked really good doing it.
Who looked the most dominant in the supers? And we just had a listener ask if you could speak up a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, sure. Wake Forest definitely looked the most dominant. I think they scored the most runs ever to this point.
And one daggum game, they pretty much did that.
Yeah, man, they have absolutely been lighting the bats up, and it's not like they can't pitch the ball either. They're number 1 seed for a reason. It's hard to root against Wake Forest, but it's also really hard to root for the number 1 seed in the World Series. I mean, it's just a bad spot to be in.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, the track record for at least the last 3 years for the number 1 seed has not looked too well. I mean, when was the last time that the number 1 overall seed has, in the last 3 years, the number 1 seed made it all the way to the College World Series? Not even the final 3, just where we're at today, the College World Series. Because didn't Tennessee fall out in regionals or super regionals last year?
Yeah, I think it's at least 3 or 4 years that they haven't even made it to Omaha. And I want to say going back to before 2000, maybe it's when the last time the number 1 seed won the whole thing. So it's a really uncomfortable place to be in. But Wake, it looks like the team that might break that curse.
Let me search that up, too. I'll ask you another question. The number 1 seed, let's see, is this? Miami in 1999. That's how long it's been, man.
Yeah,
Good night.
It's been a long time.
No doubt. Who had the best season that did not make it to the College World Series?
That didn't make it to the College World Series. Honestly, I'm going to go with Arkansas. They didn't even make it to a super regional.
Yeah, that's wrong.
But Arkansas looked really, really good. I mean, 3 seed coming into the postseason. It kind of shocked everybody that they didn't make it out of their home regional. That was kind of the shock of that first weekend for everybody.
Yeah, put Quinn Matthews, the pitcher for Stanford, who had the incredible game against Texas, complete game, 156 pitches, 16 strikeouts. Put that into words for me.
It's almost inhuman. You don't hear that at any level of baseball. I mean, you hear guys going 100 pitches, and you're like, wow, he really went above and beyond.
Right.
And I'm not a huge basketball fan, but if you look at like what a normal number of minutes is for a basketball player, 1.5 times that roughly is what this guy did, and to do it dominantly. Normally, when you throw that many pitches, these guys are going to get locked onto you. They're going to start shelling you. They're going to start really putting up some runs, and they didn't. Quinn Matthews just went out there and shoved, and I mean, he was that guy that night. And what's going to be interesting is to see how he does going forward in the College World Series, because a pitcher's arm doesn't heal quite as fast as a lot of other athletes, arms or legs heal going forward. So it's not a short turnaround time per se, but it's going to feel like it for him. So let's see what he does in this first game, and it'll be game 2 or 3 probably for them in the College World Series. But let's see what he does there.
Southern Miss last night had a disappointing exit to their super regional against Tennessee, losing 5-0. Tell me, I'm kind of scrolling through your Twitter right now. Tell me, what you find ironic about that.
Yeah, so like you probably saw in that tweet that I posted last night, it almost felt like a prophecy for Southern Miss. It was exactly 1 year to the day that they were put out by Ole Miss the year before in their home super regional by the same exact score, 5-0, and they hadn't lost back-to-back home games since that night 1 year ago. So it was just really didn't feel like it was meant to be. It felt like for Southern Miss, you really needed to win it in 2. And I said from the very beginning that Southern had a better chance playing in Knoxville than they did in Hattiesburg. For some reason, they just don't do well in front of huge home crowds, generally speaking.
That is so wild. And let me get this take from you. You being, you went to Southern Miss and Ole Miss, right?
I went to Southern Miss, lifelong Ole Miss fan.
Yeah, lifelong. Okay, that's what it is. But how do you think the state of Mississippi would have been? Like, if Southern Miss gets in, do Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans band together and root for Southern Miss, or is it still like that, kind of uncle that nobody cares, or cousin that nobody cares about?
The fan bases of the other 2 big schools, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, kind of, had this toxic little brother syndrome for Southern Miss. And it kind of felt like everybody was rooting for Southern Miss more because Tennessee fans were picking on Southern Miss, and it felt like they were rooting for Southern Miss.
Gotcha.
So if they'd have made it past that point, maybe you're rooting for the three-peat for the state of Mississippi, but I don't know that anybody's really rooting for Southern.
Well, the matchups are here for the College World Series, and let's talk about some of those. Kind of explain each team how they got here, a position player to watch, offensive or defensively, and then a pitcher or pitchers to watch, and then who wins the game. We'll start it off with Game 1 of the College World Series, Oral Roberts versus TCU. Give me your takeaways from that.
Oral Roberts is another one of those programs that had a tough road. I mean, going to Stillwater against a really good Oklahoma State team, and pulling that out, and then going to Oregon, and that was crazy because they flip flop who's the home team in those super regionals, and both teams had a walk off victory Game 1 and Game 2, and so Oral Roberts has just been feisty. They've got Kay Denton on the mound, who has just been outstanding. He's an All-American closer. The guy's been lights out. And Jonah Cox, I think, is hitting over 400. So they've got the star power. They don't have necessarily the big name everybody's been looking for, like LSU, the Stanford, the Wake Forest. But they're a sleeper team for sure. I mean, there's only been 3 4 seeds ever to make it to Omaha. One of them won the thing. So don't put Oral Roberts out just yet. And then on the other side of that, TCU is another team that kind of surprised everybody making it here. They had to play away from home the first game, and thought they were going to play away from home in the super regional. But Cole Keckler looked really, really good on the mound this past weekend, and Cole Fontenelle at the plate, man, he's been lights out. It'll be a lot of fun to see these 2 teams who both kind of have a chip on their shoulder. They feel like they're kind of the odd men out here, to see who makes it onto the winner's bracket.
And then we'll go over to Game 2 here, where the Virginia Cavaliers are going to be taking on the Florida Gators. So tell me a little bit about Virginia and Florida here, and get me ready for this World Series, or this College World Series game.
if I'm Florida, I feel really good about the side of the bracket they're on. Not that there's any, bad teams in the College World Series. There never is. There's only 8 of the best teams in the country, and so you're going to face the best of the best. But if I had to pick one side of the bracket, it's easily the side that Florida, ECU, Oral Roberts, and Virginia's on. It just kind of feels like the matchup Florida needs. Last time we were on, we talked about Jack Caglione and him being a two-way player and how great he is. But for the pitching side of Florida's game this week, I really want to see what Hurston Waldrop does. He's a transfer from Southern Miss, and he's got to be excited to see that his transfer decision paid off. If he stayed at Southern Miss, maybe he's not here right now, but instead he's at Florida. He gets to play under the bright lights. He's been dominant the last 2 years, so, you expect nothing else here in the college.
National Weather Service in Tallahassee has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Northern Bay County in Florida, East Central Walton County in Florida, Southern Washington County in Florida until 6:15 p.m. Central Daylight Time. At 5:09 p.m. Central Daylight Time, a severe thunderstorm was located 9 miles west of Vernon, moving southeast at 25 miles per hour. Hazard, 60 miles per hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Source, radar indicated. Impact, hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Locations impacted include Live Oak, Ebro, Red Bay, Fountain, Singer Road, Saunders, Greenhead, Bruce, Red Head, Holmes Valley, Gainer Spring, Miller's Ferry, Bennett, Pine Log, Youngstown, Porter Lake, and Riverside. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Repeating, a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued until 6:15 p.m. Central Daylight Time for the following counties in Florida, Bay, Walton, and Washington.
Try to find that and shoot that over to you later. But we're going to go over to Game 3 now, where you've got Stanford versus Wake Forest. And tell me a little bit about both of these teams here and who you expect to come away as the victor of this.
Well, it's really hard to bet against Wake Forest, but at the same time, it's also very tough to put the money on the number 1 seed. It's so difficult to figure that out. But, Stanford is going to have to, prove to several people that they deserve to be here. I mean, not that Texas wasn't a great team, but to beat Texas the way they did, Texas came back in the 8th, tied the game up 6-6. You don't score in the bottom of the 8th. You almost had a guy get out on an easy double because he thought it was a home run and wasn't paying attention in the bottom of the 9th. He gets on second, and then the unfortunate Arkansas, 2019 drop fly ball play by Texas puts Stanford in the College World Series, and it just doesn't quite feel right that Stanford's here right now. It feels like they should still be playing in the 25th inning in a continuation from last night, but Stanford is a really good team, and even though some people are going to be upset that they're here, Quinn Matthews with his 156 pitch performance a few nights ago. Again, I want to see what he does, but you expect him to do really well after he pitches as well as he did this past weekend. And Braden Montgomery, another one of these guys who can't seem to miss a baseball. He's hitting like 390 something. Dude's on fire. They've got the offense. They've got 3 really good starting pitchers. They have the depth in the pitching. They're going to be really, really good. If they have to go to the loser bracket, I'd hate to be Tennessee or LSU playing them on day 2. But Wake Forest has just been as expected so far in the postseason. They scored 1.5 million runs, something like that. I think, don't quote me, but I think it's pretty close. Rhett Lauder's been shut down on the mound, and Nick Kurtz is another one of these guys hitting 390 some odd, maybe even 400. I mean, just they're complete right now. They don't look like they can be beat, which, at some point you can't keep playing to that level. Can they do it for, a couple more weeks?
Chandler, so we had a severe weather warning going on when we were talking about Florida and Virginia, and we have a couple of our listeners who they were really looking forward to that particular matchup. So if we could revisit that breakdown real quick. I hate to do this because I heard everything that you were talking about. I didn't know that we were in the middle of one of those warnings, and I've got a lot of Florida fans right now that are tuned in, and they would definitely like to hear you revisit that. So if you don't mind, let's go back to Game 2, Virginia, Florida. I promise you everyone heard Game 3, and then we'll get to Game 4 after that.
Yeah, man, no worries. So, no, I kind of started that out by saying that if I had to pick a side of the bracket to be on, I definitely like Florida in this side of the bracket. I mean, not that there's any bad teams, but Florida definitely feels like the dominant team on that side of the bracket. And so, Hurston Waldrop being on the mound with Jack Taglione and a couple of those other guys, Hurston Waldrop, the transfer from Southern Miss, has been lights out the last 2 years. He's really feeling like he made a great decision because Southern Miss did make the College World Series for the second straight year. Florida's in it, and he gets to pitch under the bright light. I feel really good about Florida. Wyatt Langford at the plate and a few of the other guys that have just been absolutely smashing baseballs. To win 2-0 against a really good South Carolina team, you're in the driver's seat. You just got to keep playing like that. And I don't even feel like they've played their best baseball yet. So I really feel like if they can make it through their side of the bracket, they're in a really good shape. And then Virginia, they've got 3 really good starting pitchers that are all transfers. I highlighted Connolly early because he threw, I think it was seven shutout innings or 7 earned run innings in their game this weekend against Duke. And Kyle Teal is one of those guys who's hitting 400 some odd. But they've got 3 or 4 guys at the plate that have really been smashing baseballs. And I wouldn't sleep on the Cavaliers. But I really feel like if you can advance to the winner's bracket against Virginia, then you've got a really, really good shot of being that team that's undefeated and looking to only have to win 1 to make it into the championship series.
All right, man. Great stuff there. And then we'll go over to Game 4 here. We've got Tennessee, LSU, a little all-SEC matchup. Give me your thoughts on this particular game.
Well, Tennessee's playing their best baseball of the year right now, and that's something you've got to do in Omaha because you're playing 7 of the other best teams in the country. And so, if you're Tennessee, you need 3 or more really good innings from Chase Burns that he threw last night against Southern Miss. You got a closer that can come in and throw 102 miles an hour and then follow that up by a disgusting 85 to 89 mile an hour slider. It's really difficult to ask that guy to go multiple innings because when he's throwing that fast and his adrenaline's going that fast, to have to go and sit back down and then come back out again and again to do that for 3 innings is very difficult to do. So if Chase Burns can do that repetitively for Tennessee the rest of the season, they're going to be a problem. And then Zane Denton's just one of the many offensive pieces they've got. He was on fire at third base this weekend and was able to kind of help keep Chase Burns in check in those final moments of the game last night. But on the flip side, LSU, you've got Paul Skeens, who is almost without a doubt the best pitcher in the country. I almost kind of feel like he doesn't throw into a Game 2 thinking that maybe LSU plays Wake Forest. And maybe you see Rhett Loud or Paul Skeens. That may or may not happen, but if it does, don't miss that game because I'm telling you that will be the best pitching matchup you've seen in college in a very, very long time. And then on the offensive side, you've got Dylan Cruz, Tommy White, who has been for the last 2 seasons both at NC State and now at LSU, just an absolute monster at the plate. Whenever he hits the baseball, it's going to go a very, very long way. On the flip side of that, as far as hitting baseball really far, gentleman from Tennessee, his name's escaping me right now, hit a 470-some-odd foot ball off a BB Core bat. That is crazy.
What about
it's gonna be so much fun this game?
What about the Oregon guy who was his name's escaping me, and not that I really knew it, but I read a little story where he was using a wood bat.
Yeah, that's man stuff. I mean, it just really is. Like, that bat weighs, I'd have to imagine, double. I mean, I've held him. I don't know the exact weight, but I know it weighs a lot more than that BB Core bat. And to be able to get that bat around and then still hit a baseball, the thing is, if you hit the baseball, it's going to go far because it weighs more. You got more momentum behind it. But that's like not wearing batting gloves. It's just cool. If you can do that and do it well, you're cool.
All right, man. So give it to me here. Who do you have in the final, and who wins it all? Who's going to be the College World Series champion for 2022-23 season?
Well, the way we do it at the College Baseball Central bracket challenge we do, you have to pick winners for the regional, runners up for the regional, winners for the super regional, and then a winner for Omaha and a runner up for Omaha, all before this whole thing starts. You have to have a winner and a runner up before the whole thing starts.
Is your winner and runner up still going?
Florida, they're still going. I had Florida, LSU. Florida pulls it all, and I'm still really confident in that. I mean, Wake Forest could definitely be the runner up, but man, I like Florida's path. I like Florida's pitching. I like their plate approach. I really think that Florida's going to pull this thing off. I'm going to go with LSU as the runner-up, but Wake Forest definitely could be that second team.
Yeah, for me, I'd love to see Florida LSU. Secondarily, it would be Florida Wake Forest, and then if there's any way Oral Roberts can win it all, then I'm definitely all cool with that. I love the Underdogs. Chandler, thanks so much for giving us some of your time. Another wonderful segment, man. We'll catch up with you sometime next week.
Absolutely, dude. Sounds great. Y'all be careful.
Awesome, man. That's Chandler Permenter. He is a contributor for College Baseball Central. You can go follow them on Twitter. They also have College Softball Central as well. We've got 17 minutes left to go, and it'll be less than that when we get back. Stick with us. We'll keep it on the fast track.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Colin Cowherd. It's fun to come to work and be excited about what we're doing.
The last time Aaron Rodgers was this motivated were those 2 years after the Packers moved up to draft Jordan Love. What followed over the following 2 years after that, Aaron had 85 touchdowns and 9 picks.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your forecast on this Tuesday. Partly cloudy skies tonight with a gentle breeze out of the south-southwest around 10 miles per hour, and look for the low to be 79. Tomorrow morning, there will be likely thunderstorms and some clouds with the temperature reaching 83. Possible thunderstorms and some clouds in the afternoon and evening with a high of 84. This weather is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
PCB Hobby, the beach's premier hobby store for sports cards, comics, coins, and trading card games. PCB Hobby carries the largest selection of boxes and packs from the latest releases of brands like Topps, Panini, Leaf, and more. Looking for a specific player or team? PCB Hobby has a wide assortment of raw and graded cards. They carry parallel rookie, game used, and autographed cards in both modern and vintage. Have a collection you want to sell? We buy, sell, and trade. PCB Hobby on Back Beach Road, just east of Florida Linen. Call 850-320-8388.
Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, this is Tim.
Do y'all sell bait?
Yes, we seasonally stock live shrimp, live bull minnows, live sand fleas, live fiddler crabs, earthworms, night crawlers, crickets. We also stock frozen shrimp, sand fleas, mullets, squid, pre-rigged ballyhoo, bonita, stingray, cigar minnows, Boston mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and a few other miscellaneous baits. It's worth the drive to buy premium locally sourced bait from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
You want a big-time sports show? Tune in for the Afternoon Underdogs.
We're live and local here.
Weekdays from 4 till 6.
We need one more SEC team in there to shake things up.
The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. It's the final segment of the afternoon, and you are listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 right here in Panama City, 101.9 on the Forgotten Coast in Panama and Port St. Joe. We are your home for the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves taking on the Tigers tonight there in Detroit. First pitch tonight at 5:40. Braves got Spencer Strider on the bump tonight, so they definitely need to get a win. The Afternoon Underdogs will be live at Dave & Buster's tomorrow. You can join myself, Kyle, Amanda, Drew, and a cast of sports fanatics every Wednesday from 4 to 6 on ESPN Northwest Florida is broadcasting live on location at Dave & Buster's in Pier Park. Come experience all the sights, sounds, smells, and excitement of Dave & Buster's hopefully tomorrow. At some point, I'm thinking 5:20, we dive into our top 5 favorite games to play there at Dave and Buster's and get a couple of arguments along the way. Wright State Chris says, all right, I'm heading out. Peace, y'all. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Wright State Chris. Thanks so much for your comments and all of that good stuff. Not a whole lot going into the college football world right now. The Big Ten dropped their schedule. I don't know if I haven't really taken the time to, I've read the article, but to, kind of understand it because it's such a long article and it kind of, bounces back and forth, how good articles do, but I haven't, got a great grasp on it yet, but it does seem interesting. They're basically going to have, an option to flex games. So it's going to be wild. You're going to lose out. Like Penn State, Ohio State is not going to be a thing anymore as far as like a cemented rivalry. I think they only took 9 matchups of the, natural rivalries or whatever that the Big Ten has. And Penn State actually left, not left, but got left out of having one of those rivalries. So their schedule could look different, every single year. But I think it's a cool way to at least, test out if that scheduling is going to work for you.
Yeah, I saw a graphic the other day that was kind of showing like these 3 teams have the possibility of all going undefeated, and it was a list of like 13 or 14 different combinations.
Right.
And then there was actually like 5 combinations of 4 teams that could all, in theory, go undefeated if it. But like looking at them, like realistically speaking, the odds of any of those, like just based on the teams, the combinations it had to have been, it looked like they did a pretty good job of balancing the teams out. Like there wasn't a scenario where Michigan and Ohio State go undefeated. There wasn't a scenario where USC and Penn State or anybody like that. There was one major team, quote unquote. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody like Illinois or Iowa, but
what about Rutgers?
Or Rutgers, not trying to disrespect, but like the teams you would feasibly expect to go undefeated. Like there was only one legitimate in each combination, so it looks like they did a really good job of covering their bases and not getting to a point where they've got 3 undefeated teams. Like, how do we decide this tiebreaker? Right. So I'm hoping that's what the SEC does when they do go to that kind of model. Is how
there's just so many rivalries in the SEC that you have to protect.
Yeah, I'm just hoping the biggest thing is that they protect the major rivalries. You could do like 2 set games, like for Georgia, I want to keep Florida and I want to keep Auburn.
Yeah.
Everybody else, whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like if we don't play those 2 games, it's gonna feel weird.
Yeah. For Alabama, I would say it's Auburn absolutely.
Yeah.
LSU's got to be, but I can't decide which rivalry I need to see every single year, and I think it's Tennessee, man, especially after last year.
Yeah.
Now, had they not beat us last year, it's like who is Tennessee? The only thing I know about you guys is your orange is just absolutely ugly.
Inside the pumpkin orange.
Yeah. Outside of that, though, it doesn't really matter. But now, 52-49 later, and some goalposts in the river. I think that rivalry has been renewed, especially amongst the fans, which that's where it has to be rowdy.
Right. That's what rivalries aren't rivalries if they're one-sided. Like, they just get boring after a while. And I mean, I know it's easy to say that on the winning side of a rivalry,
right?
But it's just like. Without the upsets, without those kind of things, like it just loses its luster. So it's got to make that game so much more exciting coming into this year for Bama as a whole.
And kind of back to the Big Ten just briefly here, but I like that they're getting rid of the divisions. I know that pretty much every conference is going to be divisionless moving forward, but when was the last time? I don't think whenever they went to divisions and they had at first it was like legends and
leaders and legends,
which okay, whatever. But the East side, right? Is it the East side? Never won.
No, it's the West side.
Okay, the West side never won, and the East side won all 5, 6? No, it had to be more than that now. 7 or 8 Big Ten championships since then. So I think that'll be good because if you get to see Ohio State and Michigan back-to-back weeks, if that were to happen, it would be very hard. It would be very hard for that to happen. But if they're both sitting there 11-0 at the end of the year, we've seen it happen in the SEC for sure. Alabama, LSU, Alabama, Georgia.
But I think it's going to lose some of that luster because being that last game of the year, if it stays at the end of the season, if they both go into 11-0, knowing they're going to play the next week, is that game going to be as much? Is that game going to be as intense?
That one might not, but the next one's going to be. Yeah. One of them, you got a 50% chance at a shootout, and then, but still, here's the thing: if that's Georgia Auburn, if that's whoever it is, 11-0, if they're a real rivalry, it doesn't even matter if they're 11-0 and 0-11 at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The tension is going to be there, and if you're Michigan, Ohio State, and you're sitting there and you both know you're going to the Big Ten championship, you're not going to be like, well, you might say, let's not show them everything we got, but I think that would be the only thing. You're still playing all your guys because you hate who's on the opposite side of that field, and that's I would love to see a back-to-back week of, Ohio State and Michigan, dude. Like, because think about it, those games, especially in the last 2 years, draw such big numbers, not because it's one of the greatest rivalries in college football, but because there was so much riding on that particular game, Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, there was not many games come the final week of the regular season last year that were like, you need to watch this because this is going to, pave the landscape. You basically had, TCU. I don't even remember. Was it Baylor? I think they finished the season with.
No, I think they played Baylor earlier.
It might have been. It might have been late in the season that they played Baylor. But TCU's final, game was one to watch because it was, are they going to finish the season undefeated? Ohio State and Michigan was absolutely must watch. I mean, I think I watched more of the Ohio State Michigan. I was at a wedding for most of that day, so I watched the first 3 quarters, then had to keep up with it on my phone. But I watched more of that than I did the Iron Bowl.
Wow.
I was also still kind of at the wedding after party at that point, and that's a little harder to focus.
Yeah, so TCU played Baylor the second to last week, and that's when they ran the field goal unit on last second, and then they played Iowa State the last game.
Okay,
they blew them out. It wasn't.
But it's still one of those things, especially with Iowa State, that you just never know what you're going to get out of Iowa State and the Cyclones. It's absolutely wild. All right, I wanted to play a little GOAT or Get Out. This was from an article that I got on ESPN, and it's talking about the current GOAT and then an active player who could become the GOAT. We've got quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, edge rusher, and then kicker. And we'll just kind of throw these around and see what you guys think and see what we think as well. Of course, the current GOAT, which I will take any argument for it being Joe Montana or whatever. I don't care if you want to go that way. But in terms of how the majority sees it, current GOAT, Tom Brady, NFL career leader in passing yards, passing touchdowns. He's a 3-time NFL MVP, first NFL player to win 7 Super Bowls during his on-field career. The active player who they say could become the GOAT, and I don't think that there's anyone even, neck and neck right now, but it's Patrick Mahomes. But do you think Patrick Mahomes, by the time it's all said and done, surpasses Tom Brady? I'll answer first and then toss it over to you. I would love to see it, because, that would be 2 careers that we get to see in our lifetime that are just absolutely amazing and don't make any sense. I don't think so, though, because you've got Caleb Williams on the outside looking in, right? Like, he hasn't even played an NFL game, but he's touted as like a Trevor Lawrence, like a Peyton Manning. It takes so many things to go right for you to get 7 Super Bowls, first and foremost. Now you got to play for 20 plus years, 20 years at least, to get some of these records that he's got. When it's all said and done, and the way that players, especially quarterbacks, and I think Patrick Mahomes is a little bit different than most of the others, but it's a selfish, especially with all of these contracts and everything, it's very selfish position. And Tom Brady, not saying that he's not selfish or anything like that, but contractually speaking, put his team first every single time. We're seeing Mahomes kind of do that, but unless other quarterbacks are doing that, no one's going to catch up to 7 Super Bowls because the Tom Brady didn't win the Super Bowls. The Patriots won the Super Bowls.
No, I completely agree. I mean, are we ever going to see Patrick Mahomes win 7 Super Bowls? Likely not.
I mean, he only needs 5 more.
Are we going to see only 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, you say that.
Those 5 are the second most by quarterback of all time at that point. Will we ever see anybody? Probably not. But the thing is, like, Tom Brady will always almost guarantee be the most accomplished NFL quarterback at all time.
Yeah.
Can we look at the end of Patrick Mahomes' career and say he was a better quarterback than Tom Brady? I think that's possible. But if we're talking just straight accomplishments, nobody's going to beat what Tom Brady did because of the level at which he did that for as long as he did it. And like you said, he took the pay cuts with the team. People are arguing Bill Belichick's the best coach of all time. And Andy Reid is no slouch of a coach, but he's closer to the back end of his career than Belichick was when Brady and him got together. But like I said, if Patrick Mahomes wins 4 Super Bowls, 5, with his talent in the way he plays the game, could you argue that he was a better quarterback than Tom Brady? I wouldn't be against it.
I think that you could even make the argument right now that Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Tom Brady ever was.
Yeah.
I think Peyton Manning was a better quarterback than what Tom Brady was. Drew Brees, you can make as far as, look, here's what I mean by that. The Patriots, again, were well-rounded all the way around, right? The Colts without Peyton Manning, there's no Peyton Manning-Tom Brady rivalry.
That's fair.
With the Saints without Drew Brees, they never have those runs. They don't get a Super Bowl without Drew Brees. You know what I mean? They meant so much to those teams. And how many Super Bowls did they get with those particular teams? One. Now, when Peyton goes to Denver, though, that's a totally different story. It was a full team effect type deal. And you still need the full team, but the leaders were the quarterback. Like, you know what I mean? For the first couple of Super Bowls, would you even, like, you know what I mean? Was Tom Brady even really, like, one of the reasons? Of course he was, but were we thinking of it like this is all Tom Brady? Like, no, man. Malcolm Butler makes an interception and all of a sudden, Tom Brady, man. You know what I mean? I remember saying that because I bet on the Seahawks to win that Super Bowl, right? I think it was back-to-back years, like one, but this particular one, when the Seahawks won, no, the final time was the daggone 28-3. But the Seahawks, so I bet on the Seahawks to win, and then Tom Brady, you know, that like they win, and I'm just like, dadgummit, Tom Brady. He had nothing to do with that. He had nothing to do with the dumb play calling from the offensive coordinator from the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll somehow letting that go. Like, what in the world were they thinking? You know, even the referees, have you ever seen that video of the referees back there talking like, wow, you got Marshawn there and that's what you do? That's another one of those videos that to me is like, I don't really believe that the NFL's rigged, man, because I know that the refs get a little flag happy and all of that good stuff, but you know, they're sitting there watching the game as a fan at the same time as doing a job. You know what I mean? They got the greatest seat in the house. Let's move over to wide receiver here. Only got about 2 minutes left, to be honest with you. The current GOAT, of course, I don't think anyone could argue this one at all. And no, I'm just kidding. Jerry Rice played with the Niners, the Raiders, and the Seahawks. Most receptions and receiving yards in NFL history. One of 2 players in history with 10 first-team All-Pro appearances. The active player who they could say could become the GOAT. They give him a 1% chance here. Justin Jefferson of the Vikings. Is there any other active player to be that you think as a wide receiver could overpass or overtake Jerry Rice, or is Justin Jefferson a realistic possibility for you?
I don't think it's realistic. Kind of what we just said about Tom Brady. Like, I mean, you could argue maybe looking back on his career that Justin Jefferson was a better athlete than Jerry Rice, but nobody's going to beat the numbers that Jerry Rice put up. But I think you put a few guys in the NFL that physically maybe, and even Randy Moss, I know you kind of joked, and Calvin Johnson, some guys like that, Julio Jones even, were at their prime, maybe a better play.
Okay, yes. As far as like, yeah.
But were they the same? Like, did they put up the numbers? Obviously not. Like, what Jerry Rice and Tom Brady did were just ridiculous. Dude, and for those longevity they did it for.
Could you imagine what was it? What was the year that Randy Moss and Tom were in 2018, right? I was like, man, was Randy Moss still playing there? Randy Moss was there in 2018? No. This is
was it 20?
It was the first undefeated season. So that was like 2015 or so.
Was it earlier than that?
Yeah, gotta be. But anyways, could you imagine Jerry Rice just suiting up and getting on the other side, and Jerry Rice, Randy Moss? Hey, Chris Carter, come on down, man. We'll just have the old folks home at wide receiver at the wide receiver course. So it's actually 07. That's what I was like, man, I think I was still in high school when Randy. That's the problem, though, man. Like, especially with our generation, as technology has advanced so fast, it's just like, oh man, like when I think 2018, I could think 2008 at the same exact time. We're out of time, man. It's time for your Atlanta Braves. Coach James Hale Show is going to be the next show up tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Inside Drive will be live with Ryan Mulvey at 11. We'll see you tomorrow at 4.
ESPN Northwest Florida. We're taking the inside drive.
Talking about the PGA Tour and Live, we were talking about off the break and just how this is really, like you said, Chris, so much stuff to unpack and how did it even come to be? And
we're going down rabbit holes.
Oh, it's the only thing you can do with this thing is definitely going down these